Well, hello everybody. So today we had a very interesting topic. It was brought up by two reporters in the morning. One was a young lady from the Pulimetro, and another one was from another young man, well, kind of a middle-aged man. But anyway, so from somebody else. But anyway, the discussion today was discussing violence in Mexico. And rather than do the whole conference word for word, I kind of did like a written um, uh, format of it. But anyway, so this was today's conference, and and so I kind of outlined it. So today, AMLO was discussing violence in general for regarding the questions that they had today. Okay. Oh, okay. So let's move this over a tad. I want you to be able to read the whole thing. And then also let me move me down a little so I'm not in the way. Okay. So this is the link, and I'll put that in the bottom. Uh, and this is where at 750, Ms. Vargas from Pulimetro asked, um, well, I didn't want to do that. She asked a question. She said, "What about the promise that you made 6 months ago on yesterday to end violence?" And this is what AMLO said to that. He said, "We are doing well, actually. Naturally, it takes time, but we're making fundamental advancements and being in the well-being of the population. In quantitative terms, peace is required for well-being." And so this times is so that I could find it on the screen, you know. And I could probably do that. Let's go ahead and do it that way. I'm going to put the screen on, and I'll be able to read the times over there. But so let's go to, let's say, uh, mm, okay, so 0830, or let's say when she asked the question was somewhere around here, right there. So she asked if, you promised that violence would have ended. And this is where he says, that they're doing good actually. So just so you know, this I took it kind of a word for word on there, okay? So I'm going to pause that there. And we're going to go back to the written text of this, okay? Okay, so anyway, he says 80% of the actions that are destined for well-being without violence. And and he says, what is well-being? As the word indicates, being well. It's being well materially and well-being of the soul. The remaining 20% is is not permitting corruption in matters of public safety, working in a coordinated manner, perseverance, professionalism of policing bodies, not allowing impunity, which means being unpunishable. And I put that on there because I think impunity is a word that a lot of people just don't use very often and might not really know what it means. But it means some people were above the law. So that's what that means. But and then not linking delinquency with authority. And 1055, that's where you would find it on the video. And controlling contraband of arms. So he says this is a series of actions, but the principal thing is well-being. And then on 11:30 he says, this takes effort or work to be understood because it was opted to attend only to the effects and not to the causes they wanted to, not to the causes, that probably should be a period or comma. They wanted to resolve it all by the use of force with coercive measures. The strategy resulted in failure. So now we're changing the paradigms. It is a new type of politics that we are applying now. Frustrates me when I see these typos that I made. So this should be new over here. Okay. Oh, great. I just made a mess of it. We'll just leave it like that for now. Let me see if it'll go. Oh, Lordy. See, it's hard to fix these things. Great. See if I can put it in here. New. Okay. Okay, so it's a new type of politics that we're applying now. Now, I wish I could show you at the same time, but I want to make the words big. So I put the times on there that you would look at on the video. If you were watching and you played this side by side, like on a dual monitor like I have, you could see what he was saying at that time. For example, let me go to 1207 on here. Right about there. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and put that on and let it play. And you know what? I need to make that a little louder. For some reason, the volume is so low. Oh, things are not cooperating. So he was saying that the mentality okay. So I probably would like to put it a little louder for you on that. So anyway, this is where he was discussing it, and I took it word for word translation there. So, but I not word for word because I changed it so it sounded right in English. But I'm going to pause that there. So anyway, let's go back to this one here. So now he says 80% of the actions are destined without violence, for being without violence. Okay, this takes effort or work because it was opted to attend only to the effects and not to the causes. They wanted to resolve it all with the use of force, with coercive measures. That strategy resulted in failure. So now we're changing the paradigms. It is a new type of politics that we are applying now. That is why I say we are doing well, because there is more well-being now. This in turn is going to help us to gain order and peace. And I can say it to you in a phrase which I use quite often. Peace is the fruit of justice. For the authoritative mentality, those who want to resolve everything by force, so this means nothing to them. But consider that, yes, it is. We consider that, yes, it is. In other words, yes, it is important. That it is important. What have we gained? Well, Now the people have confidence in this strategy. It is not me saying it, but it is said by the INEGI, by the last poll of the INEGI. The National Institute of Statistics and Geography, INEGI, so I took this directly from the dictionary. INEGI, by its name in Spanish, Instituto Nacional de Estadística y Geografía, which translates to National Institute of Statistics and Geography. It is an autonomous agency of the Mexican government dedicated to coordinate the national system of statistical and geographical information of the country. And so let's go to the next part. What happened last night? Oh, how come it's not having everything in there? It's got a whole missing part. Interesting. Okay. What happened last night was a different perception. Okay. So they say the poll was done before the occurrences in Culiacan. I would respond to them that even with that occurrence, the people believe in us and support the strategy that we are utilizing, because what was done was very irresponsible for a long time. Imagine leaving the youth without options and coining the phrase ninis, which means neither do they work, neither do they go to school, and do nothing for them or to help them. Then, when the youth took the road of antisocial conduct, they massacred them. That was what predominated, a high index of lethality. Nor is it mentioned how the orders were given from above to clean it, to sweep up, to justify, and the data is there. So at 1535 on the video, he says, when there were more dead than dead and detained. Okay, that would probably be good for you to see this graph that he has here below. Oh my goodness, okay. So this was a chart that showed the perception of the people regarding the government, okay? So the perception of security or insecurity in this case. And it doesn't delineate exactly what each area is there. Oh, there it is on the bottom. It says total, and well, let me see. I'm going to go there to where that graph is. So we can use this to tell us where that's at. This graph is at about 1535 on my, because I'm having a hard time reading the, because this is a picture there, okay? So I'm going to pause it here. Hmm, 1355, that seems like a big difference in times. Okay, so right around here. All right. So I'm going to go back to this video. So this one is where he was talking about the this graph. And let's see if they have a picture of it again. Okay, so at one point they're going to show the graph up close because that's how I got the picture. But anyway, he says that at that time there was confrontations. And I'm having a hard time hearing it. Seems quite low. Maybe it's here. Oh, here. The ones that were assassinated, he said. About 50% were assassinated, he said. It was a war. And that's what they liked. That's what they are longing for. So he was saying that during the period of Calderon, so I'm going to go back to the other screen because I want you to see this. During the period of Calderon, here it is, okay. There were more dead than detained. He said, just allow me to give you some data. In 3 years during the term of Calderon, there were 160 military and Marines that were assassinated. And during the 6-year term, Calderon's, of all the assassinated during the confrontations, almost 50% were assassinated. And it was a war. So this is what they yearn for? This is what they would like us to implement or carry out? Of all the dead that there were during the term of Calderon, that is to say since 2006 to the present, occurred during that 6-year term, confrontations between delinquents and armed forces, and within 3 years of that term, 160 military personnel died. But look here, this does not to be appear to be in the universal or Reforma media, or they're like newspapers, kind of the equivalent of the Inquirer style media, nor in other ones, so that we can even up. There needs to be a little equilibrium in the management of information, because at times there is quite a bit of imbalances. At the red line is where we came into power. So if you look right here, you can see where they came into power. And you can see that at that time, the tendency was started to head downward. See? So when they came into it, it had an upward tendency. And even though there's a lot of violence, it's got a downward trend, which is significant because so this is where he mentions that this was a data that was collected by the INEGI, which was an independent company that graphs statistical data that we discussed earlier. But let's look about lethality. There appears to be a form of amnesia, so we're going to refresh your minds. So how many of these were lethal? Okay, this is the index of lethality charge. There were more dead than injured. Where you compare the figure of the fatalities, aggressions. Okay, so this is going to be on this other, let's see. I want you to see this graph here. Okay. So this is where you compare this is the top one is the lethality, and this one is injured, and these are detained. So if you subtract, or if you add together both the lethal and, the detained and the injured, it goes to that line that's dotted. So together, combined, they do not add up. So that's less than the amount of dead if you do a comparison on that chart. So that's what he was showing, is that yes, there was quite a bit of dead. and so more than, I would say more than 50% actually. And here it says, if you add up the injured and the detained, there are less than the dead. That was the lethality index. When there are more dead, okay, than injured. Okay, now here's ours. Okay, so below this you're going to be seeing the other uh, um, graph that there is. Okay, I wish this thing would not move in two rows at a time. It's hard to adjust it. But anyway, it is not the war. It is to confront a problem of insecurity and violence in another way. So this is what they refer to as cowardliness, not wearing the pants, lack of character, humiliation. I accept all of it. I prefer this, pointing to the low lethality. So let me show you that. There he's pointing to the low lethality index, and he says, I prefer this. Um, and then he points to the high fatality index. I want to have a clear conscience. I want to sleep peacefully. Besides that, I don't want to place anyone at risk of losing their lives, of the Mexican people's lives. And I do not want collateral damage. I also do not want collateral damage. I do not want citizens to be affected, and this politics will not change. So I think that's very admirable on his part, that he was, willing to take, all that he had coming from. He knew he was going to get attacked by the media and everyone, by putting people first, by putting the lives of the people before that. So you can see that. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Sometimes this thing will not rotate because it's human error, of course. So now there's another guy that's coming up, and he also asked about violence, but in a different way. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and discuss it now. This guy from Grupo Imagen, Arturo Paramo, I think he said, and it happened at about 2247 here. Let's see. And it looks like I'm missing a whole section there. But anyway, so he says, this guy here. Let me move it there so you could see this guy here. I'm going to put him back on. So this one here, he asks the graph you showed was perception, right? AMLO says yes. It is 2% since you came into office, into power. In in the perception of the people, it has improved. However, related to the security data from the Secretary of the Executive of the Systems of Public Security, it says that the hard facts for 2019 are heading towards being the most violent year in the history of Mexico. Evidently, these are not generated by confrontations with the organized crime, because the instructions is that they are not to occur. This means that the delinquency against the number, so I'm going to go back to the other part here. Okay, so removing this one. So you can see my typos there. Sorry, guys. I just didn't bother to fix it because I wanted to hurry up and do the video before it gets too late. Okay, so this means there's delinquency against the population that has generated this type of violence. Otherwise, how do you read the following numbers? It is 25,890 victims of violent crimes and 748 are feminicide thus far in your term period. So therefore, what's your take? If you are on your way, if we are on our way according to the data, this is not a point of time, but constantly occurring in our country. And then at 2400, because there was a precise tendency, and this is where he says at 2400. So let me go there. Okay, so I'm going to start it there. And I'm going to put it back on the other video. So this is, I'm going to go ahead and read this here, but first I'm going to put the other video on, okay? So he says we can't expect crime to end from morning to day. But take a look here. So this is where he shows them the data. So here you can see, this is where we came in. And this was the tendency. It was going up, 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 and then we came into office at its height. And then this is after. This is 1 month after. So in July, this is the homicides in July. So then it starts having a downward trend. So in September was there. So what was gained? This was the tendency. So this is what was gained. It leveled out. We detained it. Held it back. And we would like for it to continue falling downward. But the first thing was first to detain it. See where you can see the line where it was going upward? And it no longer went as high as it had in the tendency. So now he's saying, put on the slide regarding, so he's asking them to now put on the slide regarding Grand Theft Auto, because that is another crime that people turn over to the police. Because there's a lot of crimes that maybe are not complained about because people have fears or whatever. But when it comes to cars regarding insurance and all that, people will notify that the cars were stolen. So you can have a more accurate data based on the amount of vehicle thefts. So he's asking for that slide now. So he says here there's no, cifra negra would be kind of like someone putting in false information or generating, like, you know how they suspect that the increased violence is being generated by the ex-presidents from the PRI, PAN, and PRD, because they are hoping to be destructive towards AMLO's campaigning against him. So they're causing, because they were involved in organized crime and they have a lot of friends in there, that they can cause and generate and even pay people off to generate violent behavior to influence the appearance of increased violence, to try and keep AMLO from looking like he's actually gaining some ground and doing better for the country, because they're trying to make it look like, oh, things are worse, since we came out of office. But of course that's not the case. But so he's saying that the chart that relates to Grand Theft Auto is not influenced. So there he shows how far they went down with the. So this is This chart here is the chart regarding Grand Theft Auto, vehicular. See, that vehicular theft. Um, and it was on an upward trend. And here you can clearly see that it is now coming down. Whereas the other graph, it still showed an improvement, but here you can see it more clearly. You can see exactly how it's coming down, and in a very drastic measure as well. And it's considerable, he says. And this one, he says, you can verify yourself by looking up the statistical data by insurance companies, or communicate with insurance companies and see if this is not the case. So that's what he says. You can get it from the data of the insurance companies. So he says, so therefore, here we go. We're doing well. He said, little by little. He goes, okay. And then he says, next question, Mr. President. And he wanted to make a commentary regarding what happened yesterday with all those officials that were trying to break down the door yesterday. In fact, I don't know if you were listening or watching yesterday, but we could hear like some it sounded like bombs or something. And he said, oh, it's just some firecrackers. And I thought, well, that's odd that there's firecrackers. I didn't think anything of it. But later on, I found out that the officials, governors, and presidents of the different areas of Mexico had come, well, not every area, but just the ones that were with the PRI, the PRD, and the PAN parties. They gathered up a bunch of people, which again are usually put together by those ex-presidents, trying to generate dissension and violence and make it look like, this place is falling apart. But anyway, so I heard it yesterday when I was translating that there was somebody, he said, oh, it's just a few little firecrackers. And I was like, oh, interesting. Why is there firecrackers? But I didn't think nothing of it. Now I know why. Because the officials were outside banging on the door and throwing firecrackers to make it sound like they were bombing. But they didn't want to get in too much trouble, so they didn't actually use any firearms. But I think using firecrackers really is bad as well. So he's asking, do you know who gave the instruction? Do you know why it happened yesterday? He says they were trying to get in with use of force. And he says they did not behave in a correct manner. So he says they're overcome by their anxiety of opposition, their desperation. Let me move this over to the right. I don't want it on his head. And those that are in charge of safety and security here and they felt that they might be able to get in. Here, let me try to move this up a little bit. For some reason, I cannot seem to get it up or down. There we go. Well, maybe there's just no more room. Okay. So the safety and security team outside the palace thought that they might get in. So by the way, in case you didn't know, yesterday, all these political people, governors from different states, like I said, PRD, PRI, and PAN party people, had showed up, and they were threatening and demanding to go in and talk to the president about the budget. They wanted more on their budget, so that's why they had to succumb to this behavior. Really? And he says, this is very lamentable. By the way, what they did in order to stop them eventually was to throw a, what do you call that? Pepper spray bomb. The people, the personnel, the security personnel, put a bomb up against the wall and did not throw it at anybody, but it generated enough pepper spray that they dispersed and got away from the door. So he says, I'm going to take this opportunity to let the municipal presidents know. Goodness gracious. Oh my word. I just messed it all up, didn't I? Okay, let me see. We're going to go a little bit after that. A little bit after that. Okay. So it's a little bit after that. And I wish I would have put the time on there. So here he says they thought they could use force to break in or come in. So he wants to take the opportunity to let the municipal presidents know. So I'm going to write down this time, 2725. President, municipal. Okay. Anyway, so he says he's going to let them know something. And I thought this was significant because rather than being angry and having an attitude because they were so poorly, behaved so poorly. I mean, these are people that are his officials, the ones that supposedly are part of his government. But there's a lot of information going on right now about how many of them are involved in organized crime and who are being paid by the DEA and the U.S. government. So there's a whole investigation that's happening on that, and they're all scared and up in arms, and their little money cow's going to go away because they're about to stop that, by the way. So anyway, he says he's going to take this opportunity to let them know a little something. So because in case they don't know about this, this is not the place that you need to address this situation. So if you have a claim to make or request to make, this is not the place to do it. Now, he says they have to go to the cabinet of the deputies. So he says it is the exclusive job of the Camera of Deputies. Well, so let me see. That doesn't sound right to me. Let me see what that Cámara de Diputados. What is the actual translation of that? So let's see. Cámara de Diputados. Okay. Chamber of Deputies. Okay. So that's a new word for me. So I better put that on there. Cámara de Diputados is Chamber of Deputies. I'm going to paste that on there. Cámara de Diputados. I need to have that. Okay. So anyway, he says, so it's the specific job of the Chamber of Deputies. Their job is the approval of the budget. So the executive, which is him, sends the projects.
Tanto el proyecto de la ley de ingresos,
not only the project of I dislocated my arm once hitting a fly. I might have done it right now. Anyway, the job that they do is also having to do with income, the law on income, ley de ingresos. So I'm going to look that up as well because I'm learning all these new terms today. Ley de ingresos. Okay, income law. Okay, so that's just what it sounded like. Okay.
como el presupuesto.
So they deal with both income law and the budgets.
And el presupuesto envía el presupuesto que a la vez le entrega el Poder Judicial.
So they also deal with the budget that they received by the judicial department.
Que no lo puede tocar.
And it cannot be touched by them. It cannot be touched by the judicial, I guess the judicial can't touch it.
Se envía.
So it is sent.
En el caso de los órganos autónomos.
The same in the case of autonomous organisms or agencies.
Al Poder Legislativo.
Then it is sent to the legislative power.
En el caso de la ley de ingresos.
So in the case of income law,
la tiene que revisar y aprobar en su caso la Cámara de Diputados y la Cámara de Senadores.
So in this case, the branch of what is it? Deputies would let me see. Wait, I want to put that back on there because I already forgot that term. Okay, Chamber of Deputies, and the well, so it's done by a couple of. Oh my goodness, I just lost my place. Thank goodness I wrote that down. 2725. Okay, right about there. So it is sent to the legislative power, and in the case of the law of income, it has to be approved and reviewed by, in its case, the Chamber of Deputies and the Chamber of Senators. And then it was approved. When it's approved by the deputies and the law of income and the Chamber of Deputies, then it needs to be approved by the Chamber of Senators. And then after the law of income is approved, then it is the law that permits to account with the resources in order to finance
el presupuesto.
the budget.
Una vez que se aprueba la ley de ingresos,
So once the law of income has been approved,
ya es facultad exclusiva de la Cámara de Diputados. Ya
and then it becomes an exclusive faculty of the Chamber of Deputies.
no interviene ni siquiera
And at that point, there is no intervention, not even by
la Cámara de Senadores,
the Chamber of Senators,
para aprobar el presupuesto.
in order to approve the budget.
Entonces, me extraña mucho
So this is why it is very strange to me
que esto no lo sepan
that they are not aware of this.
los presidentes municipales.
The municipal presidents,
No es aquí.
it is not here that they need to go, right?
Lo que pasa es que había
So he says what has occurred is that there was,
eso,
that it was politics. He says politics, right? He says yes, exactly.
sí,
Yes, the protest was actually a political situation.
sí, es
Yes, with the desire to provoke and incite.
una provocación
Yes, it was a provocation
de los presidentes municipales del PAN.
from the municipal presidents of PAN.
Yo les también recomendaría que
And I would also recommend to them
si ellos quieren
that if they want
tener más presupuesto,
to have more budget,
que lleven a cabo, y en eso sí les ayudamos,
and so they need to take this into effect, and we will help them with it.
les damos la fórmula
We'll give them the formula
de cómo ahorrar,
of how to save,
bajar los sueldos
how to lower their salaries
de los altos funcionarios públicos,
of the high functioning officials,
cuánto ganan los presidentes municipales,
and how much do the municipal presidents earn,
cuánto ganan los regidores,
and how much do the regidores earn. I don't know who they are.
si bajan los gastos, ahorran,
And if they lower their expenses, they'll save money for the budget.
si no compran vehículos de lujo,
And if they do not buy luxury vehicles,
si no viajan
if they don't take lots of expensive trips
constantemente al extranjero,
constantly to foreign places,
y si evitan la corrupción.
and if they prevent
¿Qué
corruption.
pasaba antes? Por eso
So what happened before? This is why.
todo este desconcierto que
That's why this is also disconcerted,
al mismo tiempo lleva a reacomodos que hay que entenderlo.
because at the same time
No,
it has to do with readjustments, and we have to understand it.
tampoco alarmarse.
It's not anything to be alarmed about.
Negociaban,
They used to negotiate.
les decía yo de que
I used to say that
ahora, por ejemplo, están pidiendo
now, for example, they're asking
que se aumente el déficit
So they want us to kind of falsely increase the deficit.
Es decir,
That is
que el
to say
gobierno
that the government
contrate deuda
uh, contracts some more debt
para tener más dinero.
so that they can have more money.
Están hablando de que si se aumenta el déficit,
So they're saying that if we raise or increase the deficit,
se pueden tener 25,000 millones de pesos adicionales.
then we would get 25 million thousand additional pesos.
Y esa bolsa
And that money bag, or purse they call it,
repartirla.
then we could spread it amongst ourselves. We could split it up.
Pero nosotros no podemos hacer eso.
But we cannot do this. Or this is something they won't do.
Nosotros tenemos que tener finanzas públicas sanas.
We have to have healthy public finances.
Y estamos convencidos que si no hay corrupción,
And we are convinced that if there is no corruption
y hay austeridad,
and there's austerity, which, by the way, means living a meager way, not spending a lot,
republicana,
so he added Republican austerity.
el presupuesto rinde
The budget will suffice.
y alcanza.
And there will be enough.
Nada más miren,
So just look at this.
6,000 millones nos estamos ahorrando este año.
This year we've saved 600,000 million
Porque no hay atención médica privada para los altos funcionarios públicos.
because we do not have that special insurance for high functioning officials.
Que se hacían hasta cirugía plástica.
They even did plastic surgery on themselves.
Hasta se estiraban a costillas del erario.
He says they even stretched their faces at the expense of the people.
6,000 millones.
6,000 million.
Nos estamos ahorrando con eso.
This is how much we're saving just on that.
Otros 6,000 millones nos estamos ahorrando nada más porque ya no hay la caja de ahorro especial.
And another 6,000 million we're saving is because we don't have that little secret treasure box, that special box
Para los altos funcionarios públicos.
that was designated for high functioning officials.
Les explico en qué consistía esa caja de ahorro especial.
Let me explain to you, or shall I explain to you, what that special savings chest was?
Bueno, ustedes seguramente lo saben,
Of course, you probably already assuredly know,
pero me interesa que lo sepa la gente.
but it's important to me that the people know.
Si un funcionario ganaba 200,000 pesos,
If a high functioning official earned 200,000,
dejaba de ahorro el 10%.
he would put as a savings 10%, let's say.
20,000.
So say that was 200,000 he's saving. I'm
Y
sorry,
el gobierno,
20,000.
con el dinero del presupuesto, que es dinero del pueblo,
And then from the money that was the money of the people in the budget,
le aportaba otros 20,000 al mes.
then from that budget, from the people's money, they would take another 20,000. So they could double their money.
De modo que ahorraba 40,000.
So then he was actually saving 40,000.
Cuando ese funcionario se iba del gobierno,
Whenever that high functioning official left his job with the government or changed jobs,
cambiaba de trabajo,
or if he changed jobs,
y esto lo hicieron funcionarios del más alto nivel,
and this was done by high functioning officials at the highest level,
famosos.
famous guys.
Nada más que eso ya les toca a ustedes investigar.
But that would fall on you guys to investigate it.
Ustedes que son mirones profesionales.
You that are professional, how should I say it? Someone who's paid to be onlookers.
Bueno, ¿cuánto costaba mantener esa caja?
So how much did it cost us to keep that box
Al año,
yearly?
6,000 millones.
6,000 million pesos.
¿Cuánto nos estamos ahorrando también? Que eso genera molestia.
And so how much are we also saving on this that is generating such bothersome behavior?
No es por eso
It's not because of that
que hay cuestionamientos del gobierno,
that there's questioning in the government,
pero también nos estamos ahorrando 6,000 millones de pesos en publicidad.
we're also saving 6,000 million in publicity expenses.
Es que lo ejercido
So because that which was
el año pasado en
exercised
publicidad
in the past
fueron alrededor de 10,000 millones de pesos.
it was around 10 million pesos.
Y ahora
And now
pues vamos a ejercer
we're going to exercise
alrededor de 4,000.
around 4,000.
Pero lo ejercido del año pasado no quiere decir
But what was exercised
que haya sido todo.
last year is not all that it
Estamos
was.
hablando de lo que se presentó.
We're talking about what was presented.
Porque
Why?
habían
Because there was
extras.
extras.
Entonces todo esto
So all these things
son ahorros
are savings
que nos ayudan
that are helping us
a que haya presupuesto
and in the
y no
budget
tengamos que aumentar impuestos
so we
ni
can
crear
have
impuestos nuevos.
a budget and not have to increase taxes or create new taxes.
Ni que haya déficit para aumentar
And so
la deuda.
nor do we make increase the deficit to increase the debt.
Claro que causa molestias.
Of course, that is generating some bothered. Some people are being bothered by this.
Por ejemplo, ¿cuánto se le entregaba a las organizaciones?
So, for example, how much were we giving, or were the organizations being given?
Sociales, civiles,
Social, civil organizations.
miles de millones de pesos.
Thousands of millions of pesos.
Ya eso ya no se hace así.
And we do not do that like that anymore.
Todo el apoyo
all the money and all the supports are given to the people directly. So basically, what he did was he got rid of the middleman because these agencies, each one was taking a cut, and the people are not getting their just desserts.
a los beneficiarios.
So the beneficiaries are getting the money directly.
¿Cuál recorte?
So he said, what about the um, reduction for the executive department? And the president asked, what? Cut, budget cut.
El que hablan de los... Perdón, soy Antonio López del periódico La Razón.
He says his name is Antonio Lopez from the periodical La Razón.
Los presidentes municipales de lo que están quejando es que se les recortó prácticamente, o que en el proyecto se les contempla recortar prácticamente 5,000 millones de pesos de diversos.
So the complaint of these people that came yesterday is that they had 5 million removed out of their budgets.
Esos fondos. Uno
So these funds is what they're asking about.
de ellos es un fondo minero, otro de ellos es un fondo que se les destina
And one of them was a mining fund, and another one was a fund
para los pueblos mágicos,
that was for the magical towns,
y uno que es del que más se quejan es del Fortamun.
and another one that the one that they're most complaining about is one that's for Fort the Moon
Fortasec me parece que
or Fort the Sec,
es destinado precisamente para, pues para la seguridad.
which is supposed to be money that's supposed to be destined for security.
Preguntar si en el proyecto que el Ejecutivo envió venían previstos estos recortes.
So they want to know if in the budget that the executive sent, had they previewed or seen that these budget cuts were there.
Y también usted ayer hablaba de derroche.
And then yesterday you were talking about wastefulness.
Platique si considera que hay derroche en los municipios.
And so, do you consider that there's wastefulness in the municipalities? And he says yes. Yes, of course, there's wastefulness in the municipalities. He says we need to do a revision or review, but we just haven't had enough time, I guess. But actually, he said it doesn't correspond to us because the municipalities are free. It's like the judicial power or the legislative power. But here we have discussed So let me find out what regidores are. Because that's the second time they've mentioned that. And I don't know what regidores are. Regidores. Alderman? Government? Adjective? I don't know. It's some kind of a position, alderman. I'm not really sure what an alderman does. But he says there's aldermen that earn, let's see, how much did he say they earn?
Eso es general.
Okay, I didn't get to see that.
Eso es general.
Why do I keep missing? Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna go back because I don't know what exactly he said they get.
Preguntar si en el proyecto que el Ejecutivo envió venían previstos estos recortes y también usted ayer hablaba de derroche, que nos platique si considera que hay derroche en los municipios. Claro que sí hay derroche en los municipios. Hay que hacer una revisión, nada más, que no nos corresponde a nosotros, porque los municipios son libres. Es como lo del Poder Judicial.
So he's saying that there has to be a revision, but it doesn't fall on his
Pero
department.
aquí hemos hablado
But here we've
de
talked
que hay
about it,
regidores
that there's
que
aldermen
ganan
that earn
150,000,
100.
200,000 pesos al
Wow, they earn 150,000 to 200,000
mes.
a month. Okay, that is, I think, more than the president almost, or it is more than the president, right?
Regidores.
And these are just aldermen.
Y que para firmar por una obra
And in order to work, sign for a work, I'm going to look up what alderman does. What does an alderman do? Um, I'm trying to see, because I don't know what they do. Is a selected member of your municipal council. It's okay. Let me put that up there for you to see. Okay, wait. I'm going to remove this screen so you can see the other one. Okay, so an alderman is an elected member of a municipal council. In England, 19, okay, so it's just a council member. Or, okay, it says next in status to the mayor. Okay, that's significant. Okay. So they're next in status to the mayor, kind of like a sub-mayor. And they earn 150 to 200,000. I can only imagine what the mayor's earning then. So apparently, um, they charge in order to come to an agreement or to agree to something if somebody wants them to agree.
para que le aprueben
So in order for them to approve something,
un informe al presidente, a veces que les tienen que dar dinero adicional.
they have to give them additional money. Whenever sometimes, they have to give them additional money in order to get them to make a decision on something.
Eso es general.
And that is in general.
No, no hay reporte. Es lo que establece la ley.
No, there is no report. He says that what is established by the law.
Existe la ley de coordinación fiscal.
There exists a law, the law of coordination of the fiscal. Let me see what a fiscal is. Fiscal. Fiscal. Now, a fiscal, I thought it was like a district attorney or something, but let me just make sure I get this exactly. Fiscal. It's relating to government revenue taxes. Okay, so it is like the tax collector. Mm-hmm.
Nosotros no podemos transferir menos recursos de lo que establece la ley.
So we cannot transfer less resources than what the law establishes.
El gobierno federal recauda.
So the federal government recovers.
Y mediante una fórmula
And using a certain formula,
se transfieren fondos
they transfer funds
a los estados.
to the states.
La mayoría de los estados
The majority of the states
integran su presupuesto con participaciones federales.
they do the budget using the participation of federal agencies.
Son muy pocos
There are very few
los que tienen ingresos propios
that have their own income
o un porcentaje considerable de ingresos propios.
or a considerable portion that is their own money.
Creo que la Ciudad de México debe tener como un 60%
The city of Mexico has about 60%
de su presupuesto
of its budget
de ingresos propios.
that are their own money.
Pero hay estados
But there are some states
en donde hasta el 95% de su presupuesto
where 95% of their budget
son participaciones federales.
are federal participants.
Es una fórmula
It's a formula
de transferencia de recursos que está establecida por ley
of a transferring of resources which is done by law,
y de eso que se transfiere a los estados,
and from that which is transferred to the states,
un porcentaje va a los municipios.
a certain percentage goes to the municipalities,
Por ley,
and that is by law.
en el caso del fondo minero,
And in the case of the miners fund, let's see. Let me bring this down a bit so it doesn't look out of proportion there. Okay.
existe un alegato, una
There exists some kind of a complaint
controversia
and a
en la
controversy
Suprema Corte de Justicia.
in the Supreme Court of Justice.
Porque
Because
nosotros sostenemos
we sustain
esos fondos tienen que ir
that those funds are supposed to go,
a los pueblos mineros,
are supposed to go to the mining towns,
a los municipios mineros,
to the municipal areas where there's mining going on,
y que los tiene que entregar la federación.
and that it needs to be delivered by the federation.
Y sostenemos esto
And we sustain this
porque ese impuesto
because it is a
se
budget
creó hace 4 años
that was created 4
y
years
se
ago
enviaba a los estados
and used to be sent to
y
the,
no bajaba a los
that it was supposedly sent to the states, but it was not going to the municipal areas.
Me tocó a mí
And it happened to me.
tengo la experiencia
I have that experience
de ir a un municipio minero
where I went to a municipal, mining municipal area. Let me make it a little bigger because it seems like I'm wasting space here. Okay.
de Chihuahua, Guadalupe y Calvo. en una
From
asamblea.
Chihuahua.
Les pregunté
And I asked them,
a los ciudadanos si sabían de
the
ese fondo
citizens, if they knew about that fund
y si había llegado.
and if it had arrived.
Nadie sabía.
And no one knew about it.
Y si llegaba, hacían uso de ese recurso
And if the
para otras cosas.
funds did arrive, they would use that fund for other things.
Entonces decidimos
So then we decided
que esos recursos van también a entregarse de manera directa
And so now we've decided that that fund is going to go directly to them,
a los beneficiarios.
to the beneficiaries.
Esto generó una controversia
So this generated a controversy
que está por resolverse
that is about to be resolved
en el Poder Judicial.
in the judicial courts or power.
Pero no hay legalmente nada.
But there is not legally anything.
Por eso sostengo
And that is why I sustain
que se equivocaron de ventanilla
that they got confused about what window they were supposed to go to.
porque incluso
Because also, or additionally, or including,
si fuese que se les están quitando
if it was a case that something was being taken away from them,
estos 5,000,000,000,
these 5,000,000, 1,000,000,000,
el poder que tiene la facultad
the power that has the facility or that has the faculty over that,
para decidir sobre el presupuesto,
in order to decide over the budget,
si no se les da recursos, están amenazando con pues venir con al menos 10,000 personas aquí a Palacio por una parte y por la otra.
so they're threatening that if they're not getting that money, that they're going to come with like 10,000 people to the palace. So, okay, now I get it. So there was some money that was supposed to be going to certain people that was being sent to the governors and municipal officials or presidents. And so what they were doing was they were at times not even giving it to them or letting them know that the money was there, or they were just utilizing it for other things. And so now that they kind of adopted it as part of their money, they don't want to let it go. They don't want to let go of that money that they were getting, that they were keeping, that didn't belong to them, that it belonged to the miners, and in some cases to other people. So funds that were being sent for other people, just like in the other cases of them going to other agencies, even when it was going to the governors and the municipal presidents, they were keeping the money for themselves or using it for something else other than the purpose it was intended. So now the president's trying to fix that and give the money to who it needs to go. And so that's why they were trying to tear down the door yesterday.
Cerrar el aeropuerto, ¿qué les diría?
pues,
And so they're also threatening to close the airport.
que
Oh, and what would you say to them? And he says,
ejerzan su derecho de manifestación, que vengan.
so they can exercise. I'm going to tell them to exercise their right to manifestation. Let them come.
Temprano, más seguido,
And to come early and to come more frequently.
levanten temprano,
And to wake up early and come.
por lo menos una semana, pero no a las 7.
He says they should do it for about a week. He goes, but not at 7.
A las 7 ya empezó la conferencia.
Because then by 7, the conference has already started.
Que vengan a protestar a las 6 para que se tengan que levantar a las 4:30.
So let them come protest at 6 so that they have to get up at 4:30.
Un mes así,
Oh, let them do it for a month like that.
eso está mejor
He says that would be better
que cierren el aeropuerto.
than them closing the airport.
Eso solamente lo hizo Fox.
Only Fox did that.
Y el PAN.
And the fun.
Intentaron hacer.
They attempted to do it. Then when it was
Lograron una concertación
when
Salinas.
when they got a concert action with Salinas.
Nos cuestionaban mucho cuando lo de reforma y ellos se aventaron
And so
tomas de carretera
they
y
started
cerraron
taking the streets,
el aeropuerto.
and they took the
Lo que
airport,
querían era una negociación.
and what they wanted was a negotiation.
Está bien que protesten y que se manifiesten.
It's okay for them to protest and manifest themselves.
Pues
Yes.
lo decidieron en la puerta porque sintieron de que
So they did it at the door because they felt
había una
that
amenaza de que entraran por la fuerza.
they
Estaban
um,
forzando la puerta.
they were forcing the door,
También atropellando
and they were also
a
pushing people aside,
los que atienden,
and those
que
that
están en
attend,
atención ciudadana,
the ones that are doing
los
citizen attention,
apoyaron.
so they pushed them out of the way.
Muchas gracias. Ella está de Grupo Expansión. Perdón, presidente, no se exageró porque la crítica es justamente que a manifestantes, por ejemplo, del 2 de octubre o incluso de lo de Ayotzinapa, pues patearon la puerta, agredieron, pintaron y nunca se actuó de esta manera, pero ¿por qué sí con los alcaldes que también son autoridad?
No, fue la intención esa. Una decisión que tomaron en la puerta, sintieron que iban a ser rebasados y tomaron esta
So he says,
decisión.
okay, so now this, she says, how come this time they acted like that with the officials, but when the other young people were there throwing bottles and misbehaving, how come you guys didn't act out and throw the pepper spray on them? Why just these guys? He said, well, it's because they felt that they were attacking them personally, and like they were trying to get in. So that's how they felt that in order to be safe was that they had to do that. So there's, that's what they decided to do. So that's what it took for them to feel safe. So
a los presidentes municipales, pues que den un buen ejemplo.
so he says, I want to say to the municipal
Actúen así.
presidents to give a good example and not to behave like that.
Que vean lo que hacía Gandhi.
So take a look at what Gandhi used to do
Y Mandela
and what Mandela used to do
y Luther King,
and Luther King,
y que apuesten a la no violencia.
and to bet on the non-violence,
Y que se serenen, que se tranquilicen,
and to become serene and tranquil,
y que no mezclen cuestiones administrativas
and do not mix administrative matters
con asuntos partidistas,
with party matters,
que pues son de el PAN y del PRD,
because they're from PAN and PRD,
son opositores nuestros.
and they're opposers of ours.
Y la verdad,
And the truth
no
is,
tenemos nosotros que ver en este asunto.
we have nothing to
Nosotros
do
mandamos el
with
presupuesto.
we have nothing to do with this matter. We send the budget. That's the that's the only part they do is just send off the budget.
No nos corresponde.
So it doesn't belong to
No
us.
es como antes.
It's
esto
not
ya
like
cambió.
before. This has already changed.
Además, yo no voy a entrar en componendas.
And I'm not going to get involved in their shenanigans.
De esos acuerdos
Those agreements that they made in the dark.
o sobornar
Or to suborn.
para gobernar.
In order to govern.
Y eso se acabó.
All of that is
Las
done away with.
concertaciones,
These concertations.
nada.
None of that.
Garantizar las libertades, el derecho de manifestación,
To guarantee liberties and
sin
right to
problema,
manifestation.
y evitar la violencia,
And to prevent violence.
no caer en una provocación,
And not to fall into
la
provocation.
paz sobre todo.
Peace above all.
un riesgo los alcaldes, presidente, para actuar de esa manera, para decidir lanzarles
Yo
este
creo
gas?
que así sintieron los de la puerta, que estaban muy agresivos.
Yes.
De,
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. Yes, the people at the door felt that they were very aggressive. Oh my word. I lost it now.
expertos como este que planteó, yo me hubiese atrincherado,
Okay.
fundir. Pero luego,
I'm sorry. I lost where I was at.
cosas para evitar la guerra,
So this I had not heard yet.
para dejar en claro que es otra postura. Si se permite que se violen los derechos humanos, pero también con el gobernador de Nayarit,
Wow. I'm only halfway.
ponerse de acuerdo y atender a todo el pueblo. Y el gobernador respeta al presidente, el presidente
Wow.
cultura, se terminó con esa política.
Como el tema de los caminos, el tema del agua, el tema de la...
Wow.
Que la gente dijo basta y ya no les funcionó. Este cambio es de verdad. Prevalecía durante mucho tiempo mismo saqueo, la y es muy irresponsable.
Wow, I'm way behind.
¿Cómo acreditar la no violencia? Que se promoviera gobernar. Y eso se acabó. Las concertaciones.
Okay, so this is where we were.
Nada. Garantizar las libertades, el derecho de manifestación.
To guarantee
Sin
manifestation
problema y
and
evitar la violencia.
preventing violence. Okay, so this is where we were. Well, good
No
Lord.
caer en una provocación.
50-12.
La paz, sobre todo.
Pero sí representaban un riesgo los alcaldes, presidente, para actuar de esa manera, para decidir lanzarles
Yo
este
creo
gas.
que
So she says, were they acting so violent that they wound up sending the OC spray?
así sintieron los de la puerta.
Yes, the people at the door felt that they were being very violent.
Que estaban muy agresivos
They were very aggressive,
y por eso tomaron esa decisión.
and that's why they made that decision.
¿Respalda esta decisión de haberles lanzado el gas?
Yes, do you agree with their decision to send the gas on them?
Es que a lo mejor eso evitó una situación más grave.
Yes, he agrees with it because perhaps it prevented a more grave situation.
Yo soy pacifista.
Yes, I'm a pacifist.
Y luché durante muchos años
And I fought for many years
por la vía pacífica.
via the peaceful route.
Y sería hasta conveniente
And it would even be convenient
que se promoviera cómo protestar
that we would teach or empower as to how to protest
con eficacia,
with efficiency
sin violencia.
and without violence. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna leave it to here today because I think this is a very interesting topic, and I think I'm just gonna go on with another video for this so that won't be so long for you guys. And I'll do another set for the rest of it because it's quite long. And I know some people just don't have that much of a will to stick around that long. Plus, some people have work and don't have time, or just don't want to sit there that long to deal with this kind of stuff. Anyway, enjoy. Bye. Oh, and by the way, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Now, I have a channel called English AMLOvision. I put it in English because I'm trying to separate my Spanish channel viewers from my English channel viewers. So if you wouldn't mind, um, subscribe to my English AMLOvision channel. And then if you would give me thumbs up and comments. I love answering comments. It gives me great joy to see what you guys have to say and to answer you back. So thanks a lot. Bye.